How can you improve your jaw structure naturally? Your jaw structure is going to be made up of two parts. The first, the hard tissue, the underlying bone structure, and second, the supporting soft tissue. This is going to be comprised of mainly the submental region and the elasticity of the skin around the jaw. To make sure that your jaw is fully optimized to your genetic limit, we must ensure that both aspects of your jaw are completely optimized. So, how are we going to go over this and how can you maximize it? Well, first, we must recognize how important the jaw is with regards to not only your personal life, but every aspect of your endeavors. Think about when you see a new face, your eyes are going to automatically lock onto their eyes. But your peripheral vision, so not what you're directly looking at, for example, with me, my eyes, your peripheral vision is going to be assessing the overall facial structure. And this is how, through evolution, humans are. We use our eyes' ability to scan to then determine the other person's first impressions. Next time you see a new face, think about the psychology behind it that you are always processing without even thinking. Other people are doing the exact same thing with regards to your face. The jaw plays one of the most crucial components with regards to this first impression, since the jaw is one of the most commonly identifiable aspects of the face. It frames the entire base. When you see a face, the shape of the face is primarily going to be determined by the jaw. So, better projection and higher prominence of the jaw both are going to improve your first impressions, which in turn coincides with the halo effect and all sorts of intuitive biases that humans have. We don't understand this. This is very intuitive to all humans. Think about babies. I spoke about this in my previous video. Babies are going to be attracted towards more attractive people. Babies are going to innately want to crawl towards those who have better facial development. They are much less likely to want to travel towards those who do not possess such facial development. If babies have this understanding, it is only going to increase the older you get, and this is a fact. So, with regards to the jaw and with regards to the prominence of the jaw, you need to make sure that you are supplying enough force through the jaw. Recognize that the jaw bone is going to act like a pivot. When you chew, the ramus length is what acts as a lever arm to allow the mandible body to then travel. So the longer that the ramus length is, the more torque you can supply. And the more torque you can supply, which is just, we can think of it as the rotational force, the more torque that you can supply, then the more easily you can chew food, since the teeth are then going to have the bite force supplied from the mandible body. Now, if you chew food more, obviously this is going to improve, but this isn't about chewing. This isn't just as simple as chew more food and this is going to be better. Beyond the age of 12, bones don't grow, they remodel. And bone remodeling, in particular with regards to the jaw, is the essence of how you maximize the bone structure. So, you need to ensure that you have mastic gum, and you're not just chewing mastic gum. That's simply not enough. You need to induce a very particular environment at the insertion of the masseter muscles. And that is going to be an apoxic environment. I spoke about this briefly in the previous video regarding bone structure, and I'm going to go more in depth here. We will recognize that through contraction of any muscle, and in particular here, the masseter muscle, we are going to be using up the nutrients that the blood deposits. And in particular, inside of the blood, what is being deposited? Well, oxygen. Now, when the muscle cells are being contracted and then released and contracted and released, the blood is going to continually deposit oxygen and take in the used up nutrients as well as carbon dioxide, isn't it? Just in simple terms. Now, if we, instead of having this oscillation between contraction and then relaxation, we keep this contracted with the mastic gum at the molars, at the back teeth, and keep it there, what's then going to happen? Well, what happens is this muscle is going to not be able to have nutrients delivered at the insertion point nearly as effectively. And due to this lack of nutrient deposition from blood, that's going to force, it is going to literally force an increase in blood vessels in this area, as well as an increase in nutrient deposition. And this is fundamental for recognizing why bones even begin to remodel through muscle use. Think about with tennis players. I use this example very often. I'm sure you would have heard of Roger Federer, phenomenal tennis player. He is right-handed predominantly. When he plays tennis, he had both of his arms x-rayed. You will notice, if you search this up, his right arm, the cortical bone on his right arm is thicker, visibly more thicker than on his left arm. How is this possible? It's possible because of the continuous and chronic force load along the entire arm. Same thing at the mandible body. If you chew in this particular manner, you are directly inducing an increase in nutrient deposition, and you need nutrients. First, you need a force distribution along the mandible body, and second, you need the nutrients to supply the bones to then remodel. That is going to help you substantively. Now, second, you have to ensure that you're doing this for a minimum of 20 minutes a day. You can begin by going about apoxic chewing for around 5 minutes, but you need to be chewing mastic gum with the molars for at least 20 minutes to begin with. And why do I say molars? I say the back teeth and not any teeth forwards of the molars, because it is not natural. Chewing continuously tough food, the brain thinks this is food, with teeth that is not the molars is unnatural. Humans are not evolutionarily hardwired to be able to do that for prolonged periods of times. Therefore, you are going to be much more effective at chewing with the furthest back teeth. You can do it for longer as well, and it feels more comfortable. Now, second, you need to ensure that you are going about maximizing fibroblast stimulated collagen remodeling. And that is going to be wherein the elasticity along the entire mandibular complex is maximized. How? Well, collagen is going to be, we can think of it as synthesized in the fibroblasts. Fibroblasts are going to be the factories where collagen's synthesized. If we can then remodel the elasticity around the hyoid region, the submental, then that is going to directly allow the jaw area to be significantly more visible. How do we go about this? Well, you need to be performing particular stretches with the submental tissue. And that is going to be done through something called cervicomandibular decompression. How do you go about this? So, you need to anchor the base of your palms on the collarbone. And you need to use both of these here and push down. When you push down, you're anchoring a particular muscle tissue called the platysma muscle. This muscle tissue goes from this region around the lip all the way down to the collarbone. When you can stretch this, you are inducing mechanically the elasticity here to over time increase, and higher levels of elasticity decreases the level of, we can think of it as a drag from the platysma. So instead of it sitting low, it's going to sit higher and higher up, which makes the underlying bone structure, which is going to be optimized through what I talked about in the first part here. Now, the third and final aspect now is going to be a combination of both, and that is going to be active tongue pressurization. You would have heard of this. You would have heard of the importance of supplying and delivering force from the tongue at particular pressure points on the roof of the mouth. Now, this is going to be what drives change. You need to ensure that you are doing this for as long as possible, for as long as you can during the day. The longer you can do this per day and form it into a habit, the more change you are directly going to see. And you can see this for yourself. How substantive of change has been made possible through naturally maximizing one's bone anatomy to the fullest genetic potential. You can learn more on my website. Best of luck, and if you enjoy my content, feel free to subscribe so you get notified when I upload a video and you can learn more.